Hi there, Steve Coffin here. Last day in Spain. I hope the wind doesn't kick up too much here and disrupt the sound like it did the last time. It is my last day in Spain, so I want to talk about learning Spanish, perhaps give you some of my views on things to consider when you think of learning Spanish. First of all, it's a great language to learn because there are so many speakers. I don't know what the number is, 500,000 or more, and it opens up the whole world of Romance languages. French, Italian, Portuguese, Catalan, we're in Catalunya here, Romanian. So, some people say, well, you should learn Latin or you should learn interlingua as an introduction or as sort of a neutral Latin or Romance language. But Spain does the job, Spanish rather. So, it's a lot of native speakers. It opens the door to Romance languages. And there are so many resources available. There are telenovelas from Mexico, from Spain. In other words, Netflix movies. There are movies. There are books. There's literature. There's so much stuff to get into. Songs, music. We're all familiar with songs from Latin America, from Spain. So it's a great language to get into because there's a lot of material that can be used for learning. So when we look at learning Spanish, some people get a little intimidated because they say, I can't roll my R's like the Spanish do. Or they're aware that in Spanish there are two words for to be, ser and estar. Ser, which is a more permanent state of being, and estar, which is a more transitory or temporary state of being. All very well and good when you explain it, very difficult to remember, to do when you're speaking, because of course we don't do that, at least we don't do it in English. So anything that another language has that we don't have in our language, regardless of the explanations you get, is going to be very difficult to develop the habit to do. People are aware that you don't need to always use the pronouns because the verbs change. So me voy, that I go because boy is I, yo voy, you don't have to say yo voy. So there are a few things like that. What else would there be said in the start? I mean, oh yes, and the subjunctive that people worry about, because again, in English, we've more or less lost the subjunctive. None of that matters. None of that matters because, none of that matters because of several reasons. First of all, I would say if you want to learn Spanish, your goal should be to understand movies, to understand the telenovelas, and do them from Mexico, from Argentina, from Colombia, from Spain. It doesn't matter. The differences are not that great, despite what people say. You should have as your goal to be able to understand these. That should be a strategy. So it's a 6-month or a 1-year strategy. You want to get to where you understand those. And you understand songs, and you can even read a book. So those should be the goals. Not, I want to be able to pronounce the Spanish R. That'll come. Don't worry about it up front. I want to nail down ser and estar. Don't worry about it. It won't prevent you from understanding. If you build up sufficient familiarity with the language, vocabulary, to where you can understand the movies and the telenovelas on Netflix, you'll be on your way. So that should be the goal. Now, how do you get there? Well, I would recommend, of course, as you know, because of my experience with our mini stories at Link, which I have used now for 5 languages, I would attack the mini stories at Link. And we have only 20 in European Spanish, we have 60 in Latin American Spanish. We are getting the other 40 in Latin American Spanish. I would do both versions and I would end up listening to them 20, 30, 40 times. Not all at once, but as you progress through them and you go back and review them again and just do the mini stories and make it a point to say within 3 months you're going to get through all 60 mini stories. Once that's done, you now have sufficient vocabulary to start attempting, stuff that you can find on YouTube, movies, or Netflix. You can use our browser extension to bring material in from YouTube and Netflix and to study. And I've mentioned this before, you would go into a Netflix movie and set the subtitles to Spanish and then import that into Link. Whereas if you are watching on TV, you may leave the subtitles in English so that you have a better chance of understanding the movie. But the goal is to get to where you can enjoy and understand the movies, Netflix, telenovelas, the whole thing. Because if you achieve that level of understanding in the language, the speaking will come. And to try to sort of nail down, I would like a beer, I'd like to make a reservation for a table this evening at the restaurant, it's very hard to do, because you might memorize those, then you go to say those things, and then they answer something that you weren't anticipating, and now you're lost. So you go back to English. So the idea that you can just come up with some kind of set phrases, a few set phrases that are going to do it for you, I mean, that's an approach. But since it's Steve's tips to learning Spanish, I don't recommend that. I recommend that you set as your goal to understand Spanish movies, and you have a strategy to get there, and even to read a book or to listen to an audiobook. All of these things you can bring in to a link, so that you elevate your level of familiarity and your vocabulary, at which and there you don't have to worry about Cero and Estar. You don't have to worry about trilling your R's, because you're just absorbing the language. But you are getting the brain used to those sounds, you're getting the brain used to those structures, so that at some point when you decide, now I want to try to use it, you will be dealing from a position of strength. And when it comes to the subjunctive, if you come across it and you're not sure what the form is, I mean, now there's so many good dictionaries. Like at Link, we have conjugating dictionaries, whether it be Context Reverso or there's another conjugating dictionary. And so anytime you come across a verb, you just look it up and you see what it is. You don't try to remember it, but at least you're made aware that there are all these ranges, these different endings that you're going to come across. And you're gradually accumulating this experience. So it's become a stress-free way of building up your overall level of competence in Spanish, for all the good reasons that I said at the beginning. So while I've been here, I've been interviewed in Spanish by press, by radio, by television, and I'm going to leave some links in the description box to some of these interviews that I've had. And again, my approach to Spanish has always been to focus on comprehension. And of course, whenever we get the opportunity to speak, we speak. And we don't worry about Cero and Estar, and we don't worry about rolling our R's. We just speak and just let it come out the way it comes out, because in time it will only get better. So those are, and I'm leaving Spain with great regret. We are going to have Catalan in Link. We're working right now on enriching the material we'll have for Catalan. And I think at some point I'm going to learn Catalan. And it is 6-7 million people who speak Catalan. So it's not an insignificant language. And it's just another one of the Romance languages that learning Spanish is going to make it easier for you to learn, along with Italian and Portuguese and Romanian and French and so forth and so on. Thank you for listening, and good luck with your Spanish. Bye for now.